Back with another episode of Life After the Feds. This here is a special edition to me because I have two of my close cousins here with me. They were not in any type of federal institution or incarceration, but they were a part of the federal government. Right here, I'm gonna let my cousin Isaac introduce himself.
How y'all doing? My name is Isaac. Yes, as my cousin said, I was not incarcerated, but I did 20 years in the United States Army. I'm a retired Sergeant First Class, and so yes, I was part of the federal system, so to speak.
I have my
everybody.
Vidal right here. I'm gonna let him introduce himself.
Everybody, my name is Vidal Whitlow. I'm also a retired Sergeant First Class, 20 years service as well. I served 8 years Navy, 12 years Army, a little mix up there. And then, also part of that machine, that machine.
All right. I want to talk about, you guys did 20 years in the military, which is a long time. What was your mental state when you was getting ready to transition back to civilian life?
So for me, after 20 years, you are somewhat institutionalized, right? The Army is all I've known as an adult. I joined the Army when I was 18. So coming back to civilian life, I couldn't remember what it was to be a civilian. So it was an adjustment. I'm still adjusting. But what I will say is that making the transition from the Army to a civilian, there was a lot of things that I had to readjust to. I had to let go of some things as far as the, I guess you would call it overstructuring. Some structure is good, but the overstructure of everything was planned out, and I had to be here at this time and do this. I had to realize that I didn't have to live that way anymore, that I had the freedom to choose where I wanted to go, how I wanted to go, what I wanted to wear. That's probably the biggest thing that I deal with is what am I going to put on today? Because in the Army, my uniform was dictated, so I never really had to figure out, what I was going to wear to work or whatever. It was already dictated. But it's been challenging at times, but it's a transition that I looked forward to, and it's a transition that I'm still going through right now.
Okay. How about you, V?
For myself, I can echo everything Isaac just said. I'll add for myself, pressure. There is a nonstop, constant, heavy pressure on you to perform. Like I said, to be here or there, and for myself to execute. As a leader, you're always expected to. So when you get out, I had a lot of anxiety about what I was going to do because I couldn't touch it yet. I couldn't execute. I couldn't. I could only plan the others in the model of what we're taught to do. So it caused me a lot of anxiety, and I can say it caused me a lot of headache and heartache. And I look back now and say it was for no reason because you can't control time. You can't speed time up. You can't slow it down. So I get pressure of reintegrating into civilian life was a very took a heavy toll on me. I can say it that way.
Yeah, understandable. He said something about structure. It's structure is pretty much structure. You know what I mean? From my point of view, you know, you had a count time, you had a child time you could go work out. So, you know, with him mentioning that structure, I think back to the structure that we had in there. So it's similarities there. Okay, now you transitioning back home. You coming back home now. What was some of the biggest challenges, I'll say? What was the biggest challenges?
So the first challenge for me, I'm married. I got 2 children. So my first challenge in my mind was income, right? And still maintaining that same level of comfort that I had while I was in the military. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I do have a pension. I do get you know, disability check from the VA, but financially, in the military, you're taken care of. Everything is covered. Your housing is covered. Your medical is covered. Everything. So I ain't paid a utility bill in 20 years. Right. So that was the first thing, and that was, you know, something that, you know, took some adjusting, realizing that, hey, kids, you can't leave them lights on, you know, like we used to all the time. You got turning stuff off. But that in itself was one of my biggest concerns. And it's still a concern, you know, transitioning from the military. I'm thinking about what is my next step. So right now I'm working on starting a new career. And that in itself is a whole nother challenge, but that feeds into my financial stability for myself and for my family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Go ahead. Follow up on it.
Yes, sir. So I retired overseas. So my biggest, I was literally homeless. I had nowhere to go. So I got off a plane and from Germany I went to visit one of my buddies in LA, and we had already talked about it. He was gonna let me stay with him for a month, and but that was it. I hit the ground with nothing. I didn't have furniture. I had a couple bags, and I had pretty much with you know the kindness of my brother to just let me sleep on the couch while I figured things out for myself. And you know, had a up about that was coming up, and it kind of panned out for me with a little bit of planning. But to Isaac's point, bills, and it feels like you're starting life all over. That's how it felt for me. So as I'm working now, I get through orientation and things like that. As you just said, things are taken care of for you. So they're asking me about medical insurance. What? I don't have no idea what you mean by medical insurance.
Right.
PO, HMO, this, that, deductibles. I was Chinese to me. I'm like, what? I had to Google YouTube University. I had to figure out what medical insurance was because I had no idea how you pay medical insurance and how you pick a medical insurance plan. Mm-hmm. So in a sense, it was starting life all the way over. Things that people have been doing their entire lives as they've been working I was completely oblivious. My circumstances were different. We would do my career.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go back to this. How old were you, V, when you joined the military?
I was 18.
18 also. So both of you guys were 18, sort of fresh out of high school, and the direction was military. You know what I mean? You took that, which I commend y'all, because I wasn't brave enough to join, even though I always tell him if I would have went to the military, I'd have been a general. You know what I'm saying? It's just It's just I just feel it was in me. I'd have been General Jeter. You know what I mean? But you guys experienced that, along with y'all doing y'all time in the military. I was doing time another way. And I wish I could have been doing it y'all way, because obviously, you know what I'm saying, you experience different things and you also get paid. They didn't pay me for my time, so I really commend y'all on being able to go down that route. When you was in the military, what you did in the military, did that prepare you to come home for a job, or did you go another route?
So what I did in the military was I was a power generation equipment technician. So basically I maintained and hooked up mobile power units. Now, when I joined the military, my thought process was to pick a job that I learned a skill from, something that I could use. And I could very well use that skill that I acquired. But my mind frame now is I want to go a totally different direction. And I am fortunate enough that I have that freedom, that freedom of choice to be able to do that, to pursue a totally different career than what I did for the last 20 years in the Army.
Right. Yeah.
That's for myself. I had, and in each branch, I had a completely different. So Navy, I was gas turbine systems technician. So the ship's engines, we were responsible for the maintenance and the operation of those. LM 2500 gas turbine engines hooked up to hooked up to the propeller. Hooked up to the shaft and the propeller to drive the ship, give it propulsion to the booster. Then once I joined the Army, I became a multi-channel transmission systems operator maintainer. So high capacity line of sight radios, satellite tactical, and a lot of work. So something like that, just kind of communications for the most part. So now I was able to get due to my Navy experience. So the gas turbine tech background, the mechanical engineering type of background, I was able to get to where I am now as a steel mechanic on an oil refinery. So it kind of worked out.
Right. Okay. How has the military experience, like before you go in the military, you're raised a certain way. And then after the military, how does that experience, shape you for, like, how are you today? How did that shape you for today? The today person you are?
Like I said, I went into the military a month after I graduated high school. And I can tell you the process entering the military was the same as the process of coming out of the military. It's just reversed. So the civilian person, the civilian me who entered, basic training at Fort Knox, Kentucky. And I went through this process and training and all that. But literally what the military did was it stripped me down. Right. And I remember I'm not gonna lie to you. I remember at one point in basic training, I really was questioning my decision. I was like, what am I doing here? This, we call it getting smoked, right? But we were doing push-ups and all sorts of exercises. And the drill sergeant had us crawling around on our hands on this gravel track. And I remember looking at my hands and they was raw and they were bleeding. And I literally was like, well, what am I doing here? And I was upset. I was heated. And he looked at me, and he knew exactly, without me even saying it, he knew exactly what I was thinking. But in that moment, that was when I was broke all the way down.
Mm-hmm.
But then they build you up to what they want you to be, right? They want you to be, a soldier. And so I am thankful for, my experiences in the Army. They allowed me to go so many places, to see so many different things, experience stuff, people. But more importantly, it allowed me to provide for my family, right?
Yeah.
And provide well. And got an education for free. And all the benefits that came along with it. And now I have a pension that I get paid the rest of my life. But on the reverse side, now the Army had broke me down and built me to be the soldier that they wanted me to be. But the transition out, right? Now soldier, right? And those traits will never leave me. But that's part of the adjustment back to being a civilian, because I don't need to be that soldier anymore, right? So I think if that answers your question.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you, V? How did this shape you?
I can say that a feeling that I can recall is just go in a word.
Say it one
You're
more time.
taken out of the environment. If I used a specific word, entering the military, I felt engulfed.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm like completely submerged in a completely different environment. They took me out of an area of familiarity and put me in a place where I was unfamiliar. Yep. The language is different. The terms are different. You have to completely readjust what you think you know and go in a completely different direction. It's called pants. A wall is not a wall. Ceiling's not everything is a different, and you need to know it because that's the language everyone is form, and you have to kind of like you said, strip you down, and you become the product that they want you to become. Right. And it was as you said, you have those moments where whether it's a smoke session or just at times of it, where you're being challenged on something, be physical or be mental, and you're having a time dealing with it, and you're thinking like, why am I doing this? Why am I here? And you persevere. Your buddies help you through. You see other people struggling, and they don't quit, and it allows you to push through, and you get to the side of that adversity and realize that there's more in front of you, but you begin to build the resilience. Yeah. Know that when those come, you just have to keep going. That you're going to fail, but you can keep going, and then you'll get over.
You motivated.
Yeah, absolutely. What I can say that shaped me to who I am now, my biggest takeaway I can say from the military was exposure. We're all from the same place, and the things I was able to experience and the people I was able to meet gave me a hunger for more. I wanted to see more of them, to meet more people from different cultures. I wanted to, when I would see somebody that was squared away or high speed or whichever term applies, it motivated. Man, that guy's really getting after it. He's 100%, focused on things like that, and he gives you some. You may have a moment of reflection. Hey, I need to really tighten up around here. I need to do more. So I can say exposure was probably the biggest way to help me become who I am now. The different experiences, the different people that I met, gave me the ability to decide what I wanted to do for myself. Decide the ability to say this, and then plan a way for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely understand the exposure, because when you're in the federal system, it exposes you to different cultures. Like where we from, there's not a lot of different cultures. So when I got there, you got guys from Africa, you got Asian guys, you got Spanish guys, So it's like, okay, they're doing it like this. And, it's never something I ever thought about doing. But I could see myself like, hey, you know, they have this festival or whatever they got going on. I would like to join them. And you meet people that if you're a good person, you meet people and they always invite you to whatever they have going on.
Yeah.
So that exposure and seeing different things, I wanted more of to experience life because I hadn't experienced life. I had never traveled or anything of that nature. You know what I mean?
But when you met those different people, right? Did you see, or for me, when I met different people, it was fascinating to me that a person from Hawaii, right, could have some of the same experiences that I had being from Canton, Ohio.
Yes.
And so to see that, yes, we were different. We could be different nationalities. We could come from different places all over the globe, but we still share similar experiences or similar frames of mind or way of thinking. That's one of the things I experienced in the military, that I've got friends, all over the country, really good friends that, we're lifelong friends, but we have a commonality. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah, definitely, I did that. Because it's almost like, you meet a guy and y'all become good friends and you say, man, I wish we'd have met under different circumstances.
Yeah.
We thinking maybe where was some negative, like, hey, you could have been the plug or we could have been okay. You know what I mean? We would have been good together.
Yeah.
But I definitely understand that. Yeah. This is what I wanted to say. Coming out of the military, did they have like mentors or guys guiding you to come out and expect a certain way or to make the transition easier?
So I will say this, and I can only, I'm sure all the branches have it, but the Army specific, because that was my branch, has come a long way, right? And the way was paved by veterans of the World Wars, Vietnam Wars. Those guys weren't really taken care of, but the programs and stuff that are in place now, due to the experiences of the veterans before me, yes, they have a program that is specifically for people transitioning out of the military, because they realize that it is a struggle, but they give you a plethora of resources. You go to classes. There's so much that they do to try to help you. It's on the individual to take advantage of the help that's provided, but they do try to, assist you. And it's only so much that they can do to prepare you. And, you're out the door, and then the rest is on.
Right. Yeah.
I would say for myself, it was a combination. I was extremely fortunate. I was at at brigade, just basically higher echelon in the military and Army. So I worked with a lot of retirees.
Yeah.
And once I made the decision to retire, kind of get tapped on the shoulder. Hey, did you think about this? Did you do this? Did you take care of that? Are you filing for this? And I was bombarded, it seemed like at first, with information of things I care of. As I began to chip away at that giant information, things began to fall into place, and I began to see what they meant. And top of the resources of the military, I was also given an extra helping hand, and I can say that without any hesitation that I would not have been as successful had I not had those individuals who had already been where I was going and cared enough to ensure that I would get the outcome that they did.
Yeah.
Right.
And speaking of that, you retired before me, and you passed some of that knowledge to me as I was on my way out the door.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Pay it forward. And like I said, I felt very fortunate, and I always wanted to help I could. Us being family, I absolutely wanted to ensure I could get from these.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What were what were some of the things in the military that you couldn't do, but when you got back to civilian life, you wanted to try or embark in?
So I think for me, it was just the freedom, right? The freedom of I don't have to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and it's cold outside, and I don't have to put on shorts and a t-shirt and go stand out dark, to get ready to do physical training.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing that I looked forward to were moments like this, right? I spent 20 years in the Army, and I mean, I came home a few times in those 20 years. I had a few visits from family members. You came in and saw me once. I came and saw you, in Texas. But being away from family, so getting out of the military and moving closer to home and being able to spend time with family was something that I really look forward to. And then recreationally, I think I missed the marijuana. I wanted to try that as well. So to have that freedom to do that too, to relax, because there was many days in the Army where I was like, listen, if they would just make it like alcohol, and I could get off of work and just smoke me a joint to calm my nerves, it would have been great. But I don't think they ever gonna do that. But mainly it was just being able the freedom to move how I wanted to move, and be able to see my family at any time that I wanted to see them. And I think that was the biggest thing I look forward to.
Okay.
I'll take that same angle and just tweak it a little bit. Control. Control for me, I'll just use the word control. Control over my life. I was ready to have control over my life again the way I wanted it.
Right.
Everything from where I wanted to live to what I wanted to wear to I was just ready for the next step in life to have control and power over my own decisions without permission or without oversight, without of those decisions and feeling frustrated about it. So, facial hair, I went and got a career that I wear a beard, but I was next in line of Maybach music when I first got out. I was killing it. So yeah, grooming standards, I would say just overall control.
Yeah.
Mine was a major thing I looked forward to when I retired.
Yeah, that's what's up. I had a down moment, man. He spoke on visiting me. I had a down moment, a down time at one because of my poor decisions in the system. I got caught with a cell phone, and they shipped me to Texas, and from Texas they shipped me to another place in Texas. So I hadn't seen anyone for about 5 years, and due to him being a training or something.
Yes, I was at training at Shepherd Air Force Base in Wichita, Texas, which was about 2 hours. You was in Dallas.
Yeah,
Fort Worth.
Yeah, Fort Worth. So he was able to come see me, man. And I'm just saying, I wanted to put this, just that little visit right there it brought my spirits up so much. You know what I mean? Just to have family to come see me. You know what I mean? Come see me, my spirits up so I could make it through what I was going through. So thank you. You know what I mean? That's why I always tell a person, if you have a loved one that's even in the military or in federal prison, it doesn't hurt to send a card or a letter. It doesn't even have to be much. It's just something, a pick me up. It may pick them up. You never know what state of mind a person is in. And that I would assume that goes for the military also. You go into lonely places, war zones. That's another thing I wanted to ask you guys. You did 20 years, so obviously it was a war going on during that time. And it sent you to foreign lands. How did you guys feel when you were stationed in these places? I mean, what was the mindset?
So initially being my first deployment was only 7 months after I joined the Army. And so I'm still, fresh. And I found myself in Afghanistan. It was partially it was an adventure for me, but at the same time it was business, right? And I knew in my mind that where I was, once I left outside of that safe perimeter that we had for our base, that there were people there who wanted to kill me, right? Who only wanted to kill because of the clothes I wear. They didn't know my name. They didn't know anything about me, but they knew that I was a United States soldier, and their mission was to kill U.S. soldiers. So that, in my mind, you're on a constant sense of alertness, right? Heightened alertness, because I knew people who, went over there, and everybody thinks they're coming home, but I knew people who didn't come home, right? So I kept in my mind that I'm coming home, right? And so all the training that we go through, everything, you put those things to use. And you can be over there, and I can see the beauty, if I can use that word, in countries like Iraq or Afghanistan, right? But still realizing that I'm in a combat zone, and I'm essentially at war, and people wanna kill me. And so what do I do, or what do I have to do to not let that happen and make it back home to my loved ones? And you just take it a day at a time. I mean,
yeah. No, during your time, Vigo, have you been to those places also?
Um, so I had a couple. They were different from different angles. So I did my first deployment, well, as it pertains to a war zone. I was in the Navy, so we returned, and we were in the Gulf on a ship. Now you would be safe, or you would have, there's a buffer because they don't have TV or whatever. We still worry about missiles. We did drills all the time. Make sure we shut off hats. Let air in. We had to walk around in masks for a certain amount of time. Get shots. And I was younger then, and it was a very real and anxious time, because we didn't know when we were coming home. We were actually 3 weeks from coming home, and we got turned around. We were in Australia. We got turned around to go back to the Gulf, and we were just doing certain duties and things like that in the Gulf, patrolling and things like that, where anything could happen. boats come alongside us and what it is, it's just a fishing or a guy with a bomb or this, that, and the third. So I remember that being incredibly distressful. On top of, again, not knowing we're coming home, because every day there was rumor mill. We're going home next week, going home 2 months, we're going home, we're going here. We were indefinite. And that was terrible. That was a terrible spot to be in, because mentally you can lock in and say, hey, I'm going home in 3 months, and you can get on your mission. But whenever you don't know when you're going home, when you're waiting for a word, so you can wrap your head around what you dig in for it. It tore at us. I say that for sure. Then I was boots on ground in Iraq. Same thing as 7 months into the Army. So I joined the Army. And as soon as I get out of school, as soon as I get out of training, straight boots on ground. So now, something I should be familiar with, have some kind of maybe how can I say it, resiliency built up, because I've kind of been in a similar situation. Completely different. Boots on ground is completely different from being on the ship. So now, being nervous and looking around and trying to, keep my head on the swivel and ensure that, I would come home alive and things like that. So it was, certain type of attacks, this, that, and the third. I can say that, and we were in Baghdad. It was a whole different ball game. That it had scaled down, but it was so sporadic. So anything could happen anytime. They were launching stuff over the walls, and if it was just it could happen. It was the point. Is the point I'm trying to make. And you always kind of had to have that high level of vigilance and hyper alertness to where's it coming from to do. So I got that. It was, yeah.
Yeah.
It was a time. It was a time. I'm glad I got through it. I'm glad I came home safe. But I just remember the stress, the anxiety, and the just like I said, that not knowing, just that inability to know the outcome.
Yeah, that open ended. I got a question for y'all, and this is something that when you speak on this is kind of, I want to try to help somebody that's younger. They don't know what direction they want to go in right now in life, and they haven't even considered what you guys been through. How would you tell someone or feel about others joining the military?
I would say for a young person who doesn't know, like you said, or have any direction, know what they want to do with their life, and they're thinking about joining the military, I'd tell them do it. Right. The opportunities that you will have from the military, you're not gonna find them nowhere else. Right. Nowhere else. You're gonna get paid. You ain't gonna have to pay for food. You ain't gonna have to pay for housing. You ain't gonna have to pay for medical, right? Then you could use that time, right, to think about what you want to do. Then you go to school, right? For free. Get them degrees, right? One of the biggest things that Americans deal with today is student debt or student loan debt, right? You join the military, you get it for free. You get a master's, doctor's for free, right? If you put in the work, but along with that, the experiences that you're gonna have, the friends you're gonna make, the skills that you are gonna learn, it's not a bad move, right? I made the decision to join the Army because I knew that I wanted to progress in life, right? I knew I wanted to go somewhere, but I knew that I had made some mistakes, in my teenage years, academically in school, and I knew that I wasn't gonna be able to get, any type of scholarship or anything like that. I joined the army simply for the college money, right? And it took me 18 years before I actually went to college, right? So imagine if I would have went to college in the beginning, what I could have did, right? So it's not a bad move at all. Are you gonna have to deal with some stuff? Yes, right. But I mean, if you look at it as a stepping stone and you keep your goal in mind on what you want to achieve, then it is easy. You could take them people yelling at you. You can get up early in the morning, right? You could do all those things and achieve your goal, right? And you don't have to do 20. You don't have to retire. You could do, 2, 3, 4 years. Get in, get out, but get what you need to get from the military and move on. Me, I figured, I was 18, I do 20. And I didn't make the decision to retire until I had did, I believe, 6 years in the army. But then, I'm 38 when I retire, right? And I got a pension for the rest of my life, right? And I can go get me another job. And I mean, but it is definitely a good, if you're thinking about it, hey, contact your recruiters. They gonna blow smoke because they gonna try to get you in. But do your own research, right? The benefits that you will receive from serving in the military, you're not gonna find nowhere else. Not another job nowhere.
Absolutely. Uh, my piece of advice. I mentor a couple of guys. Is in my in security system. I was talking about what he wanted to do, and long story, he ended up becoming a mentee. So, and I told him about the military route. So, first thing I told him, hey, when you make a decision on anything you want to do, find somebody doing it and ask that person to mentor you. Don't go in line. Don't go in shaking the dice. It's not Vegas. You don't want to do that. Like, go in with someone who has your best interest at heart, who knows more than you about what you're getting yourself into.
Yep.
Make an educated decision and move forward. And as Isaac said, have a plan. Like you said, take the yelling or the push-ups, or take all that, because those moments are smaller than your goals. And if you think about it, it's part of the plan. You had to go here to get to here. So that that big of a deal, when you consider the big picture. And as you said, also do it in lieu of trying to figure out a plan. It's better than standing still. It's better than staying stagnant. You can move forward while you're thinking about what you want to do. And especially as a young person, not realizing how valuable time is. As you said, retiring at 38, I got out for a year and a half, so I didn't retire until I was 40. But that is invaluable knowing what I know now. To retire at 38 years old, have benefit, money coming in that you don't have to wake up and go earn. And the ripple effect of a VA loan, the ripple effect of college for your family, ripple effect of not having property tax.
Yep.
And I can speak to this personally. If I was paying property tax on my home, I'd be paying like $1,400 a month. So that's $1,400 I get to save and not have to invest in taxes. My bank account towards my family. So, like I said, ripple effect. to me, it's worth it. And I would just advise anyone to understand, have a plan, and move forward.
Yeah. Yeah. That's some good wisdom, man. I wish if I could go back and tell my younger self, or just have that option. The option was there, but I didn't have the knowledge. I didn't have the knowledge or the guidance. You know what I mean? I'm glad that we have younger cousins and individuals that we may know, and you guys have been through that to be able to say, hey, I don't know anything about it, but I can direct you to the right people, you know, like a mentor, you know what I'm saying? You can mentor guys or give them the ways to go about it, man. So I appreciate that, man. I really appreciate y'all coming on the podcast, man. When I started this podcast, I wanted to do individuals incarcerated, but I had a plan when as I spoke to you guys. I knew you guys were inspiration because I know where you guys come from. You know what I mean? I know it wasn't all peaches and cream growing up, and I know the direction you guys took was to better you guys' lives, man. So I really appreciate y'all coming on here and sharing y'all story, man.
It's a pleasure. Pleasure. I'll do it again.
Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, this is another Life of the Feds, man, and we're going to catch y'all on the next one. Love y'all. Peace out.
Peace.
Peace.